Welcome to today's deep dive. I want you to picture this for a second. It's November 1940.
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah. And there's this massive state-of-the-art suspension bridge in Washington State, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge.
Oh, right. An absolute marvel of modern engineering at the time.
Completely. But then a moderate 40-mile-per-hour wind starts blowing through the
Huh.
channel, and the entire bridge it begins to twist.
And we're not talking about a gentle sway here.
No, that the concrete and steel violently ripple like a ribbon caught in a fan until the cables literally snap and the whole structure plunges into the river below.
Wow.
Right. But here's the thing. The engineers who drafted those blueprints, they didn't sit down at their tables and plan for a collapse. They designed it to stand.
Of course they did.
But the harmonic resonance from the wind, that wasn't up to them. It was an emergent property, an unplanned output.
Which perfectly frames the mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring this incredible essay titled Building Strong, an essay on construction, voice, and the architecture of a life from day 117.
Yeah, and we've got a really rich stack of sources today, ranging from ancient Stoic philosophy guys like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus to modern systems theory like Seth Godin and Ryan Holiday.
Right, and our mission today is to figure out how to consciously architect a life
Yeah,
rather than, spending all of our time perpetually repairing a broken one.
exactly. Because if you aren't intensely aware of the structure you're building, the environment will eventually expose your unplanned outputs, just like that bridge.
Yeah. And the essay anchors this entire concept on this one. Really arresting quote from Frederick Douglass.
Oh, I love this quote. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Right. And, Frederick Douglass understood the mechanics of human destruction better than almost anyone in history. He lived through unimaginable trauma.
Yeah, he did.
So when he says this, it isn't just a piece of poetic historical wisdom. He is offering a fundamental architectural insight here. The supreme value of prevention over repair.
Prevention over repair.
Right. Exactly. If you invest the grueling, meticulous effort early on to build the structure correctly, the returns compound. But if you don't, you spend the rest of your days frantically running around with spackle, just trying to shore up a foundation that is actively sinking.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the bridge metaphor earlier wasn't an accident, right? The essay pulls in Seth Godin's framework on built versus complex systems.
Yes.
And we really need to define the difference if we want to understand how our own minds work.
Absolutely. So a built system is simple and predictable. Think of a toaster.
Right, you push the lever down, the coils heat up.
And the bread gets toasted.
Yeah.
It does exactly what it is designed to do every single time.
Simple.
But a complex system is completely different. It has multiple interacting parts that respond to their environment in totally unpredictable ways.
So tying it back, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge wasn't just a static object.
Right. It interacted with the aerodynamics of the gorge. The wind matched the natural frequency of the bridge, creating what physicists call aeroelastic flutter.
Aeroelastic flutter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The bridge absorbed the wind's energy and amplified its own swaying until it basically destroyed itself.
And Godin argues that human beings, our families, our organizations, we are all complex systems.
We are.
You might design a system to do one thing, but because of all the interacting parts, it produces something completely different, like Godin's example of General Motors decades ago.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that systems do not require plans to produce outputs. They only require operation.
Right. GM didn't intentionally hold a board meeting and declare, hey, let's design mediocre, unreliable cars to alienate our customers.
No one drafted that memo.
Exactly. But the complex system they had built, the bureaucracy, the incentive structures, the disconnect between engineering and management, it relentlessly produced that exact output anyway.
It did.
It's sort of like running a software program in the background of your computer. If you never bother to write the code yourself, the program still runs.
Right.
It just runs on whatever messy factory default settings were left behind by whoever used the machine last.
That is a great way to put it.
And if we apply that to you, the listener, right now, just think about a stressful Tuesday evening. You've worked all day, you're exhausted, someone in your house drops a glass, and you completely lose your temper.
We've all been there.
You didn't plan that reaction. It was an unplanned output of a complex system running on default settings.
And this forces us to confront a pretty terrifying reality, honestly.
Yeah.
If our default settings are constantly producing unplanned behaviors, we have to isolate the control room of that system.
Right.
We have to look at the continuous output that drives all the other outputs. And that is the silent voice inside our own heads.
Which brings us to Dr. Jim Lower. The essay references him via Ryan Holiday, observing that the power broker in your life is the voice that no one hears.
The power broker, I love that term.
It really is. It's that constant running inner monologue that evaluates every single thing you do.
And Holiday points out that parents are essentially co-authoring their children's internal monologues through their daily interactions.
Right. A parent's external voice eventually becomes the child's internal power broker.
Exactly. But the essay takes this concept of co-authoring the inner voice
Yeah.
and applies it to self-governance as adults.
Because we never stop building it.
Right. You are still co-authoring your own inner voice every day by what you choose to pay attention to.
Which is where Marcus Aurelius enters the picture. I mean, here is a man who was the most powerful human being on the planet.
The emperor's Rome.
He commands massive armies. He shapes the laws of the empire. And what does he do with his evenings?
He sits in a military tent by candlelight.
And writes a private journal, the meditations. He wasn't writing for an audience. He wasn't looking for a book deal.
Not at all.
He was engaged in a literal construction project for his own mind.
Yeah, and if you look at Book 1 of Meditations, Marcus spends the first 9 pages doing something incredibly specific.
Yeah.
He lists 17 different individuals, family members, tutors, philosophers, and explicitly details their best virtues.
17 people. 17. He thanks Apollonius for teaching him independence. He thanks Sextus for showing him tolerance.
Wow.
He is methodically showering himself with their best qualities. He's deliberately setting his own inner weather, so to speak.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this slightly.
Sure, go for it.
If someone today just sits down every night and writes glowing paragraphs about how great everyone around them is, isn't that just a bit of toxic positivity? I mean, how does writing nice things about your tutor build actual strength when a literal plague is wiping out a third of your empire?
That is the exact trap most people fall into when they read ancient philosophy.
Really?
Yes. They mistake deliberate curation for delusion. Marcus Aurelius was not ignoring reality.
Yeah.
He was facing plagues, the betrayal of his closest generals, endless border wars. The mechanism at work here is cognitive framing.
Meaning what, practically?
By deeply and repeatedly focusing on the specific virtues of others, he was actively wiring those concepts into his own neural pathways.
Oh, I see. He was actively installing a resilient, capable voice into his own head. So when the crisis hit, his internal companion didn't panic or despair.
It echoed the strength of the people he studied.
Exactly. He was building the internal shock absorbers to handle reality, not avoid it.
So he recognized that the raw material of his inner architecture was his attention. Whatever you point your attention at becomes the mortar for your internal voice.
Yes, but there is a profound risk here.
Which is?
When we talk about curating an environment and protecting our inner voice, the natural human instinct is to just eliminate all friction.
Oh, right. To make things easy.
We think building strong means creating a completely safe, buffered environment. And that overcorrection destroys the very capability we are trying to build.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The essay brings in this vivid, almost visceral story from the philosopher Epictetus.
The story of Gorgo.
Yes, young Gorgo, who would later become the Queen of Sparta. She's just a child, and she's watching this very distinguished, wealthy, foreign visitor. The visitor's servant bends down to put the man's shoes on his feet. And Gorgo watches this, completely bewildered.
She can't comprehend it.
Right. And she turns to her father and innocently says, "Look, father, the stranger has no hands."
To a Spartan mind, the idea of depending on someone else for a physical task you are perfectly capable of doing yourself was so alien, it literally looked like an amputation.
She didn't see luxury. She saw disability.
Exactly. Gorgo processed it as a severe deprivation.
And Ryan Holiday maps this directly onto modern culture, specifically this phenomenon of snowplow parenting.
Oh, the helicopter parents who clear every obstacle.
Yeah, where parents aggressively clear every single problem out of their child's path. But when we remove all friction from a complex system, we deprive people of the experience required to earn self-sufficiency.
Because confidence is not a gift you can just hand someone.
No, it's an emergent property of overcoming difficulty.
This raises an important question, though.
What's that?
It gets to the second phase of Frederick Douglass's quote. What does it actually mean to build a strong child?
Right. True building requires intentionally permitting difficulty. When a manager steps in to solve every problem for their team, or a parent does a child's project for them, they aren't protecting anyone.
They're depriving them.
They're taking away their hands. Removing obstacles steals the opportunity to build the structural integrity they'll need for the rest of their life.
But practically speaking, and I think a lot of listeners will wonder this, where exactly is the line?
The line between helping and harming.
Yeah. How do you know the difference between being a supportive, loving presence and accidentally taking away someone's hands? I mean, if someone is drowning, you don't say, well, the struggle is good for your structural integrity and just watch them sink.
Fair point. The distinction lies in assessing the capacity of the individual and the nature of the obstacle.
Okay.
Are you building for comfort or are you building for capability? The essay brings in Socrates here.
What did Socrates say?
He argued that it is an absolute shame for a human being to grow old without ever seeing the beauty and strength of which their body is capable.
And if we apply that physical principle to human character, it means we have to let people lift the heavy weights of life.
Because a muscle only grows when it is subjected to resistance.
Microtears and resistance.
Uh-huh.
If you constantly support the weight for them, the muscle just atrophies.
So you have to find the courage to let the people you care about struggle. And maybe even harder, you have to let yourself struggle.
Absolutely.
But to tolerate that kind of discomfort requires a radical shift in perspective, right? Sure. Which leads us to the mental mechanics of how you actually maintain this architecture, the discipline and perspective.
This is where the blueprint becomes reality. Because how do you actually process the world so that you don't panic when the friction hits?
Right.
Marcus Aurelius used a specific, highly practical mechanism for this called perceptual hygiene.
Perceptual hygiene. Walk us through how that actually works.
Okay, let's say you are terrified of a high-stakes presentation at work.
Okay, I'm sweating already.
Right. The anxiety feels overwhelming. Well, perceptual hygiene demands that you strip away the social illusions.
How so?
You literally tell yourself, this is not a life or death tribunal. I am simply standing in a room, vibrating my vocal cords, while other biological organisms interpret the sound waves.
That is amazing. It totally deflates the pressure.
He did this with everything. He'd look at luxurious food and describe vintage wine as just fermented grape juice.
Or the purple robes of the emperor.
Exactly. He called them sheep's wool, dyed with shellfish blood. It breaks the spell.
And the ultimate tool for breaking that spell is memento mori, right? Meditating on your own mortality.
Yes. When you filter your daily anxieties through the absolute certainty of your own death, you immediately see what is actually trivial.
Seneca applied a similar inside-out mechanism to human emotion, specifically anger.
Yes, Seneca is brilliant on this.
Because when you're wronged, the default system demands revenge. But Seneca argued that healing is infinitely better than revenge, because anger always outlasts the initial hurt.
Right. If you hold on to the grievance, the lingering anger actually becomes a new wound.
You are choosing to continuously injure yourself long after the other person has walked away.
You're just compounding your own structural damage.
And escaping that default reaction is incredibly difficult. John Maynard Keynes, the economist, he pointed out that the real struggle in human thought isn't learning new ideas.
The difficulty is escaping the old ones.
Yes, old mental models are exactly like gravity.
Ooh, I like that.
You don't just gently float away from a default setting. You need tremendous continuous thrust to break orbit.
Yes.
If you stop the engines, gravity pulls you right back down to your baseline. That's why Marcus Aurelius couldn't just write his journal once and be done with it.
He had to generate that thrust every single night.
Exactly.
And how do we generate that thrust in our own lives?
Standards.
Through an uncompromising adherence to standards. The essay highlights a miniature operational framework called Knowles Creed.
Oh, right. It's 3 steps. Plan the hunt the hunt, discuss the hunt.
It is a perfect closed feedback loop.
It's brilliant in its simplicity, but you cannot skip a step. Planning without execution is just fantasy.
Right.
Execution without a plan is chaos. And doing both without debriefing, discussing the hunt, means you extract zero wisdom from the experience.
You learn nothing for the next time. And the ultimate testing ground for this feedback loop is the physical body.
Because the body is brutally honest.
It is the most honest domain we have. It does not accept rhetoric or excuses.
Yep.
You either did the miles, lifted the weight, and ate the right food, or you didn't. Engaging in physical struggle forces you to practice the exact self-governance that building a strong character requires.
Randy Pausch captured the stakes of this beautifully in his book, The Last Lecture, which, by the way, he wrote while dying of pancreatic cancer.
Such a powerful book.
He said, "We don't beat the Reaper by living longer. We beat the Reaper by living well."
And living well isn't a passive state. It is an active construction project fueled by standards that you simply refuse to compromise.
Now, if we pause here and look at the blueprint we've discussed so far, the discipline, the struggle, stripping away illusions, holding relentless standards,
Yeah.
it can sound intensely cold, like a life built entirely out of stone and steel, rigid, unfeeling.
Which is the most pervasive and dangerous myth about Stoicism.
Oh, totally.
People confuse the philosophy with emotionless suppression. They think the goal is to become a robot.
But it's exactly the opposite. The historical record shows Marcus Aurelius was a deeply devoted husband and a remarkably tender father to his children.
Yes. His explicit, stated goal was to be free of passion and full of love.
And we have to define those terms, right? Because for the Stoics, passion meant the raw, turbulent emotion that overrides your reason and masters you.
It's control.
Exactly. But love, on the other hand, is emotion directed outward in deliberate care, generosity, and service.
Jordan Peterson synthesizes this tension perfectly.
What does he say?
He says, be as kind as a dove, but as wise as a serpent.
Kind as a dove, wise as a serpent.
Right. If you have kindness without the wisdom of the serpent, your kindness devolves into mere sentimentality.
You become the snowplow parent who ruins their child out of pity.
Exactly. But wisdom without the kindness of the dove, that's just cold, tyrannical calculation. You must integrate both.
So what does this all mean? How do we actually pull the steel and the heart together?
Well, the essay shares a great parable from Anthony de Mello to illustrate this.
Oh, right, the master and his students.
Yeah. A master is asked by his students what they truly need to navigate the world, and the master refuses to give them a 10-step checklist.
He simply says, a heart.
Right. He refuses to theorize it because a heart cannot just be filed away as a neat concept in a journal. It must be lived out in the friction of the real world.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we uncover the profound, counterintuitive truth of this entire deep dive.
Which is?
Frederick Douglass's mandate to build strong children rather than repair broken men is ultimately an act of rigorous love.
It is. Epictetus's refusal to coddle Gorgo, the refusal to take away someone's hands, that is a harder, deeper love.
Yeah.
It is a love that trusts the beloved with difficulty because it fundamentally believes in their inherent capacity to grow strong enough to bear it.
It reframes our entire understanding of care. We usually equate comfort with love. But the takeaway here is that comfort, when misapplied, is a form of deprivation.
Yes, it deprives the person of the very friction they need to build themselves.
Building a life is the most demanding form of love there is. As we wrap up, the essay lays out 5 interlocking supports for this architecture, and we should probably recap them to ensure the blueprint is clear.
Good idea. First is awareness.
Right.
Acknowledging that you're a complex system producing outputs, and if you don't take control, your defaults will.
Second is voice. Deliberately curating your inner companion, just as Marcus Aurelius did, by focusing on the virtues you want to wire into your mind.
Third is resistance to rescue. Understanding that earned capability requires struggle, and that removing obstacles is a form of deprivation.
Fourth is standards held. Utilizing feedback loops like Noel's Creed to uncompromisingly do what you said you would do.
And fifth is love, the chosen orientation of a disciplined heart that seeks to build, not just comfort.
Those 5 pillars remind us that a well-architected life is not a destination you suddenly arrive at.
It's an ongoing practice.
Yeah. The essay concludes by pointing out that the child we most urgently need to build strong isn't just the literal children in our households.
It's the child still living inside us.
The one whose internal power broker we are co-authoring right this second by the thoughts we choose to entertain. Elbert Hubbard once said, "Happiness is a habit. It's a structure built day by day."
Let me leave you with a thought experiment to test the structural integrity of what you are currently building.
Oh, I like this.
Imagine if the inner voice you've been secretly co-authoring your entire life was suddenly broadcast on a loudspeaker.
Oh, terrifying.
Imagine everyone you know could hear exactly how you speak to yourself when you fail, when you're tired, and when you are afraid for just 24 hours.
Wow.
Would you be proud of the complex system you've built? Or would you be deeply horrified by its default outputs?
That is a tough question to answer.
It is. But if you would be horrified, remember that the architecture is not permanent. Tomorrow is day 1 of your new construction project.
It is always easier to consciously build strong than to perpetually repair the broken. Take a hard look at your blueprints. Let's get to work.